And in the death, as the last few corpses lay rotting on the slimy thoroughfare, the shutters lifted an inch in Temperance Building, high on Poacher's Hill, and red mutant eyes gazed down on Hunger City. No more big wheels. Fleas the size of rats sucked on rats the size of cats, and 10,000 peopleoids spit into small tribes. Split into small tribes. Coveted the highest of the sterile skyscrapers. Like packs of dogs assaulting the giant fronts of Love Me Avenue, ripping and re-wrapping mink and shiny silver fox, now leg warmers, family badge of sapphire and cracked emerald. Any day now, the year of the diamond dogs. This ain't rock and roll. This is genocide.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need.
Welcome, folks, to another show. The chat rate was 2 for a second, and then it suddenly disappeared. Playbacks 1. Average watch time 7 seconds. How does that happen? Yeah, this is the late show. It's 4:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Your old pal Tony Caravan with you.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on.
That coffee's good. But it's hotter than hell. Anyway, title of this show is ROCKFLUX Live 10/23/21. It's a Saturday, the 23rd of October, calendar year 2021, if we can believe that. And it says they're coming to get ya. And the chat says, let me out of here. Title card for today's show is simply Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid. Be very afraid. And I see we've got some kind of skull has appeared in the background. It's a performance. It's all a performance. But I guess it's time we look into the weekend weather. So, let's take an Earth view here. As you can see, much like yesterday, but much worse than yesterday, you've got amazing amount of clouds swirling and building up in the upper western part of the former United States. And starting in the midsection, but getting very heavy around the Great Lakes region and all throughout the into the mid-Atlantic and northeast are heavy clouds. Southern tip of Florida's got some cloud cover, and there's clouds off the coast. So what that spells for us is clouds, rain, and unsettled weather for the next week or so. Where I am, the current temperature is 48 degrees outside of my front door. It is going to be raining. 90% chance of rain in my neck of the woods, a high of only 50 degrees today, a low of 45. 70% chance of rain tomorrow, 60% after that, thunderstorms after that, thunderstorms following that. It doesn't look good. The outlook does not look good. And that's your weekend weather. I realize that's really low. But I don't have a producer. Just the monster. I once recorded a Christmas song with an all-monster audience. And don't know if I have a copy of that or not. Let's see, Xmas tunes. If we have any Tony Caravan songs here. No. Apparently I was too much of a bird brain to do that. But might as well get into the feature album, because this with that little intro that I started the show off with was Future Legend by David Bowie, and obviously if you can read the screen, it was track 1 from Diamond Dogs. And of course Diamond Dogs is the featured album of the day. Now, David Bowie, you know, what a career he had. I mean, incredible songwriter, you know, a vocal range unlike hardly any singers that have come to the fore. And the transitions he did throughout his career were just absolutely amazing. Diamond Dogs is literally a definitely an album. And so I'll take this let me just stop this thing for a while. I'll take this thing and try to wake up a little bit. You know, get back to some kind of semblance of the usual thing.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
That was kind of...
I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello. Did I say
Good morning?
All right. I know this is electric mayhem. Coffee. It felt so comfortable in bed I could have just laid there. Instead I get up. It's 4:21 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on a Saturday. Most people, I guess, are sleeping in, as they say. I'm coming to you live at 30 frames per second. Getting back to Diamond Dogs. Diamond Dogs is an album that if you are not familiar with, even if you know some of David Bowie's hits, and you might know the song Diamond Dogs. You might have heard that. But you might not know this album unless you're a David Bowie fan, as they say. I would highly recommend, while you're doing a task or just kicking back on the old sofa, couch, whatever the heck you call it, backyard lawn chair. If the weather's nice where you are. It's over here. I got to put my lawn chair away today and grab a knife out of my man cave garage, detached garage, to saw some things up. To saw some foam, actually, which will be messy. But I have to do it. But it's still too soon for me to clean up the garden. But anyway, Diamond Dogs, I kind of butchered up the thing a few times on a couple areas, but I always fleas the size of rats sucked on rats the size of cats. I found a rat in my backyard. I had a bucket under a makeshift outdoor sink where I put a 5-gallon thing under the drain, right, to collect the what they call gray water, so I was washing off potatoes and stuff like that. And perhaps the flavor of me washing off potatoes and cleaning off carrots that I had harvested, I wanted to do that outside because I wanted to do it inside. Well, one day I went out and there was a rat in there, fairly big, Rats and mice can't swim. I mean, I don't like to be around any kind of creature like that, but I don't like to see them die either, But apparently that's a trap technique that people use. They fill a bucket halfway with water, and they put like some food or something in there, or dangle some kind of thing on a string or something, and the mouse, rat, or whatever goes in there, gets in the water, and they just don't know how to swim. They have no idea how to swim, and then they drown. That's a horrible way to go. But anyway, fleas the size of rats sucked on rats the size of cats, and 10,000 peoploids split into small tribes, coveting the highest and the sterile skyscrapers. Like packs of dogs assaulting the glass fronts of Love Me Avenue. It's obviously this apocalyptic scene, as the description above, says, and this dystopian future. And this album was, I don't know if it says it on here, it doesn't. But it was around the 1984. There's a song in there called 1984, actually. 1984. But yeah, it's it's an album. Again, it's one of those ones you put on right from that thing that I read which Bowie reads in the beginning, Future Legend. And it goes right into the whole story of the Diamond Dogs. Yeah, it's interesting. Featured album of the day, Tony Caravan Live. Thanks for watching. Take care now. Take care now. Yeah, that's that. I know the show always starts weird. What's in the grow room? Nothing. The upstairs. I haven't been up there in 2 days. I didn't even go up yesterday. Didn't feel like it. News. I just thought I'd point this out because it's so ridiculous. Eco-friendly lab-grown coffee is on the way, but it comes with a catch. Now, their catch is that it puts here's the funniest thing. It's like that other news I read the other day. Their catch is always not our catch, is that what happens to workers who grow traditional coffee. Nothing about the ideas. What is this future? This ties in with Bowie's dystopian, ideas. from Diamond Dogs. What is with this idea that we have to grow all of our food and everything in a lab now? Right? You know, this whole idea, this weird concept of food shortages, supply chain shortages, and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's bullshit. You know, I mean, there's nothing else. Nothing else. No other way to do it. This is ridiculous. We don't need lab-grown coffee. Right? I don't think anybody wants lab-grown coffee. People don't even want GMO, crops. People don't want processed food, really. I was reading a thing about, I was doing my research on vitamins. And part of the what they call processed food, part of that is this fortified. They do it to cereals. They fortify them with vitamins, right? So they call it fortified. What is that? Fortified. Somehow they somehow infuse these things. And some of these doctors who were giving these presentations were the only way you can overdose on certain, because people are worried about overdosing on supplements and stuff like that, or vitamins. How much is too much? People would ask. And the idea was that you can't really get too much from food necessarily because the body itself kind of regulates food. The digestive process, that whole, the way things go through your body. All right. It's artificial means that usually cause problems, generally speaking. But that these fortified, right, things could be problematic because they're infused in a thing that is the body, takes as a food, interprets as a food, but yet it's artificial. We got to stop this. And we're not going to be able to stop it. So what we have to do is stop eating it and look out for it. I mean, I've been eating oats and getting some cereals. And I thought I was getting like a shredded wheat, and I noticed that it had vitamin D in it, D3 or something. I was thinking, okay, hey, that's that might be a way to do it. And then I saw a couple of these things, and I started questioning this fortified, processed. And thinking maybe I should just go back to just my good old whole, old-fashioned whole oats, right? Not even the ones, the ones that are hard, just nothing. I had been eating those for a while, longest time, but then I was getting like oats, not like Quaker Oats, brand name oats, but just like generic oats. Cereal, and then maybe like a shredded wheat. But it seemed, when you read it, it sounds great, man. It sounds like there's, minimal this, there's a little high in fiber, minimal sugars. If there are even the frosted ones, have minimal amount of sugars. I was surprisingly, because for the amount of white, coating on the top of like the frosted, shredded wheat or whatever, frosted wheat, looks like a lot of sugar. But, I read the labels. When you read the labels, I was like surprised. That's really not a lot of sugar in there. It's just basically lightly sweetened. So whatever that is, they paint on there. Who knows? Maybe that painting, it looks like sugar on the top, which is partial sugar. is the vitamin, concoction. Like I say, it's hard to get a straight answer from. You could do the research. And remember, on YouTube or the internet in general or Wikipedia, you can't trust it. Because if you watch one or two sources, you might say, oh, yeah, see, hey, that's it. I'm going to do that. Right? But if you watch 5, 6, maybe a dozen, then you're like, what? Right? There's so many contradictions within contradictions. And suddenly you realize, I just wasted an hour or two. Because you come away more confused than you did when you entered. But be warned, if you go to one or two sites, the two of them might make it sound like, yeah, this thing's good for you. Now you really, whenever you're doing internet research, you really have to go to 6, and if it's something you're planning to make a life change with, first of all, you could consult a nutritionist, right? Somebody degreed, PhD nutritionist. Not even your doctor. You could ask your doctor. But the problem is you can ask your doctor right up front, how much training do you have in nutrition in law school? And they'll be, an honest doctor will tell you that they don't have a lot of nutrition training. So you want to go to a PhD, somebody degreed and studied in nutrition. And in consultation with your doctor, of course. If you have someone who's reads up on the papers and stuff to knows your body, if you have a personal doctor who's familiar with your blood work and things like that. But what I'm telling you is that if you go on the internet and you look, you're gonna come away totally confused. And too many people, all they do, it's like people who watch the news. They watch their favorite news channel and then somebody says something. And then they go like this, and then they repeat it, and they tweet it, and then they post it, and then it's a meme, and it gets passed around, and suddenly everybody thinks that we're in some kind of climate crisis, and 0.004 CO2 is going to be the end of the world. And nobody ever told them somewhere down the line that that's tree food. That's what the trees breathe. Like I said yesterday, it's a nitrogen planet. People are such fools. I mean, I'd see if I could do this thing without causing some kind of major crash of my system or freeze up. Let's look here. Composition of Earth's atmosphere. All right. Let me put this on for you to see this so I'm not messing with you. I should have had it up already before I did that. Google. I don't know why it always does that stuff. Hang in there. It's just kind of goofiness. All right. So as you can see here, Earth's atmosphere is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.9% argon, and 0.1% other gases. All right? And then listen, and it goes, this is right off of Google search. Trace amounts of carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, etc. Now, reread that again, okay? Because like I say, the average person is clueless about this. Earth's atmosphere is composed of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.9% argon, and 0.1% other gases. Only trace amounts of carbon dioxide, methane. Right? You understand? You maniacs. I mean, that's it. You know? And it's like and CO2 is 0.004%, if we could even believe them at that. And that is the thing that makes the plants grow, trees breathe, makes the planet green. It's a trace element. And they've got you believing that they have to have these giant sucking fans to suck the trace elements of carbon dioxide that the trees, the plants, the flowers, and the crops need to breathe, which in turn puts oxygen back in the atmosphere. And that this somehow has something to do with the climate. I mean, I just showed it to you there in gray and white. You know? What's the matter with people? Right? What's the matter with people? You know, it's crazy. But see, this is what happens. You know? People are told these things. They watch it on the news. It just keeps getting repeated. And they don't even know it. And if you ask somebody in your family today, or, somebody a friend, whatever. Say, what's the composition of the Earth's atmosphere? What do you think? What's like what's the most prominent gas? Right? And you see what they say. It's insane. There's more argon than carbon dioxide, like way more, Argon. And only trace elements of CO2. And as the British say, methane. I'm telling you, man, it's freaking crazy. And now, and there's this like major move to make everything fake in a lab. And then they talk about gain of function and stuff like that. And they and it's a big thing. And there's people out there that still don't believe this, even though it's been reported. They dance around their own lies, and they propagate lies and falsehoods and fantasy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. The sun is the source of heat and light. The sun is the primary source of vitamin D. The sun is our best friend and our worst enemy. In many ways. The sun will lead to our ultimate destruction in the coming years. But at the same time, the sun will give you immunity with vitamin D and activate some 1,000 receptors. We are as much involved, our bodies are as much involved in photosynthesis through the sun as plants. It's just in different ways. It's a terminology we know, we're familiar with plants. We say photosynthesis. But we photosynthesize the sun every time we're out in it. Through our skin. Our skin is our biggest organ. People don't even know that. They don't even think about that. Right? It's, and it's in the wintertime, we're approaching the time which might be another reason why, coincidentally, why all the holidays, happy holidays are in the wintertime. because to keep our spirits high, because there's, we're not getting that vitamin D. And like I say, try to find a straight answer on supplements, and you won't. And then there's even this stuff where I've read about eating the stuff in food like it needs to be activated by the sun. And I'm going like, well, the sun's going away. Like here, the sun's gone. The sun's gone. Sun's not going to be around for at least a week. Sun may not show up for a month. You know what I mean? That's over. And even if it was in higher latitudes, once it's at a certain angle or percent, the percentage of availability of vitamin D is below the absorption rate of the human body. People don't know this kind of stuff, right? But they talk the talk. They talk all the time. And there are these newsreaders out there with these expensive costumes and pretty faces in these well-lit rooms, unlike like my dark room, right? And of course, none of them are doing any of this like weird stuff. But be afraid, man. Be very afraid. Because, that, between them trying to manufacture these ridiculous foods, gain of function, drugs, now they're telling you, like I said yesterday, you could mix and match these things. That's something... If that didn't like set off something in you're not fully functioning. Did you ever see me when I appeared on a late show? But yeah, I don't know what to say. But yeah, it's crazy. So you need to be afraid of stuff. I had a fairly good night of sleep. I woke up at midnight or something like that. And then I guess I got back to sleep. The room was warm. I have my bedroom gets warm. See, this is the perfect kind of weather. Like when it's like whatever it is now, 48, and it was in the 40s. It's just the right temperature to get that room really hot. And I believe my heat bill is going to be cool for like the next couple of months. If I could get through into January, that would be really nice. But we're in for some, it's really, it is a strange journey, and we're in for some crazy times ahead. And that's the other thing that I really am surprised about, that like people don't seem to understand. Like they don't get this idea that, maybe that we're that what hyperinflation could mean to us. Right? They just don't see it. They don't understand. Did you see what happened with Bitcoin yesterday? Like it was just on like one exchange. I know that's probably annoying to you, some of that background stuff. I kind of like it, but I don't want to mess around with you.
Your papers, please.
I'll give you something that you're more comfortable with. So it went down to 88,000, 8,700 from a high of 66,000 yesterday in one day. But then it rebounded to 60,000, and they said it was a computer or trading glitch. All right. But this is just the type of thing that I was trying to tell people. All right. When you're dealing with digital, and I know there's people out there going like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This thing is like, it's not centralized. It's everywhere. It's it's on, millions of computers. Yeah, I know all that. I know Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin because I was involved in it before you were. All right. I have an account. I was mining. All right. So look, the fact of the matter is it's still digital. Okay. And what you don't know, and there are people out there that will like right now, swear up and down that it's not even hackable. It's unhackable. Absolutely unhackable even. It's not. Bitcoin has been hacked. And I know some people will have like, oh, well, yeah, but that was I know. It's like, know the code. Code is everything. If you remember what I was trying to talk about, the pyramid of power. All right, the real pyramid of power, not some stupid Illuminati thing, okay? See, the real all-seeing eye, I've still talked about this before, but nobody watches these shows, so I have to repeat everything anyway. The real all-seeing eye isn't this Illuminati thing, okay? I've been involved with the Illuminati. That has nothing to do with anything, okay? The Illuminati is basically is the Knights Templar. Okay, it's like it's tied into, ancient knowledge being passed down, okay? Here's a gold coin with the Knights Templar symbol on it, okay? Don't talk to me about stuff you don't know about. See, you think you know things. See, you don't know what you don't know, and everything you know is wrong. And once you come to that acceptance, all right, then you've reached a higher level. Okay? That's the most important thing to understand. It's hard. I know, because I've been through it, and I'm constantly through it. There's constant discovery where you find out, hey, I'm always learning things. You learn things till the day you die. Or transcend to the astral plane. Right? What the story is, the all-seeing eye isn't the Illuminati. The Illuminati is just the sharing of ancient knowledge passed down among people who are open-minded enough and willing to go through the portals of study to study this stuff and to maintain, this knowledge of where we came from, of the way things work, and what life is all of, existence is all about. Illumination. The real all-seeing eye is the code. The code is the all-seeing eye at the top of the pyramid. Power of pyramid. And that is what that's the technocracy, And what is a technocracy? What is big tech? What is big data? Right? They're corporations. And so what does that make the United States? A corporatocracy. Yeah, you know what I mean? This isn't like some kind of like real stretch to understand things. What is K Street? Do you know what K Street is? Do your friends know what K Street is? Okay, that's like K Street is a street in Washington, D.C. It's like traditionally it was referred to as where a lot of the lobbyists, were. What are lobbyists? Lobbyists are the people who draft the bills, the laws that that become legislation in Congress. The laws of the land. Who are lobbyists? Lobbyists are paid representatives of corporations. All right? So the corporatocracy rules, right? Who funds political campaigns? Corporations. So the lobbyists write the bills, the laws. Congress just sits there and votes on them. But they vote on them under pressure of campaign finance by the corporatocracy. So who rules? Who pulls the strings? The corporations. So the United States is a corporatocracy. Judges, many judges, some are appointed. Many judges, magistrates, and people like that actually run for office in areas, It's like Tip O'Neill said, all politics is local, right? So it starts in your local community. My community's corrupt, for example, where I am. It's totally corrupt. The political class runs everything. Our water and sewer bill, I showed you that thing, these imbeciles, these contractors that they hire, which are like government contractors, right? Big contracting companies with logos and, like I said, all the accoutrement and materiel and the logos and all the manpower and all the, but they don't know their asses from a hole in the ground. Now, that's another thing people have to start getting over too. It's like if you don't wear a tie, and if you say fuck, like suddenly, well, then you're not legitimate. Well, fuck you if that's the way you look at it. Hey, I'm not wearing a fucking tie. And yeah, I'm going to say fuck. Okay? It's like, and shit. All right? And bullshit. And call out bullshit where I see it. People. You don't know what you don't know. So stuff gets passed around and people just believe it. And they waste their entire day arguing over it or or getting some kind of dopamine hit, like thinking they're winning something. This team sport of ideology. So disgusting. I was talking to my mother, was 88 years, had her 88th birthday yesterday. And I was talking to her about this. She sees it. She's like, her mind is totally sharp. And so we were having a conversation about how fucked up things were. Of course, I don't use that kind of language with my mother. I mean, there's certain places, you don't talk around kids like that or something. But I mean, among adults. But, yeah, the world's fucked up. She understands that. And I said, it doesn't bother me. And she was going on with the certain things that bothered her, or in effect, though she's of the same mindset as I am, that there's nothing you can do about it. So, complaining or something like that is useless. So that's the part that most people don't. That's where she has a superior mind. And, in other words, you have to come to the realization that it is game over and there's nothing you can do. You're not going to save America. And that was the conversation that we were having, and I was talking about it. And I said, yeah, there's no use complaining about anything, and you're not going to save anything because what's going on is too entrenched, all right, into our society. Right? It's everywhere you look. It's in entertainment. It's in the news. It's in so-called comedy, which isn't even funny anymore. Right? Obviously, politics is chock full of it. And all the corporations have adopted this stuff. You know what I mean? Everybody on the street, the stores. They've all gone stark raving mad. But there's no use getting upset about that because that's the way it is. You don't change that. See, once you create a culture of a certain kind and it goes for a while. See, that's conditioning, right? I mean, you would have to go through a massive the only way out of a situation like that would be deprogramming. It's like a cult. The Western civilization has fallen. The United States is the former United States, because it's fallen under, into like this cult, what I call cult of personality, but it's also this cult of what they call wokeism. I call yokeism, right? This cult of, of just, of absurdity, of lies, deceptions, right? Mix and match saline solutions. Yeah. That's the big one. Saline solutions. Everyone must get a saline solution. You can mix and match. Doesn't matter. It's just a saline solution. That's why people who get the saline solution still get the thing. Sure, mix and match. Doesn't matter. It's just a saline solution. Here's looking at you, kid. Of all the dames and all whatever. So anyway, I actually have that stupid thing.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
But anyway, so be afraid, man. Be very afraid. Be very afraid. On these I could take this thing down a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's kind of neat. You can still see the horror, but you could see the skull and stuff. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Oh, that was another thing I was going to change. The Tony Caravan Live thing. I was thinking I would put Worldwide Webcast next to it. But I think I would put some space here. Let me see what happens. bring this down to here. Yeah, let me do this. Here, you get to see this stuff, how this stuff works. Now, VU. Now, let me just... VU, come on. I'm on the VU. I guess I have to... Let's see if there's a way of bringing that view. Must be a way to bring that to the front. You know, there's so many things and oh, I know what to do. Well, actually, it is above it, so it should have priority over it. I don't know what this thing is, so let's just get that out of the way because that's bothering me. Why can't I select the VU? I don't know what's going on here. Whatever that is, I don't even know what that is. This, I know what this is. I want this to be here, and I wanted the VU meter to be. So I'm going to temporarily move everything the fuck out of the way and see why. It's like this is locked. Let me just see. Image file, filters. Close. Properties. Let's see. Unload. Why can't I move this thing? Isn't that the weirdest thing ever? I can't move that. I can move myself. I can move whatever this thing is. There's some like blue thing here. I don't know what that is. Like this. That's some kind of thing. And I got this. It's like that the other thing won't move either now. You know, the lava lamp. Why? You know, why won't that move? Oh, it's locked. Okay, so let's put that up here. You learn something every day. Apparently, I locked the VU meter. So now I can go about and move it a little bit because I want to move this down to about like maybe here. Yeah. And now I want the VU meter to be there. And now I don't mind locking it, and I don't mind locking the Tony Caravan Live either. Right. And I don't mind locking the lava lamp. I'm moving that over a little. And the VU meter. How's that? See, I was trying to get into a position here that I was comfortable talking. And that, you know, this could be brought down, relaxed. You could see my soul patch. But it should be a little more conversational. I don't care about the game over thing being, you know, that doesn't have to be as big as it is either. You know. Adjustments can be made to this. It's the same with our then Watt girl. You know, she could be pushed off. I don't know what's going on with that. Is she locked? Hoodie girl? Filters, crop, right. 33. 60. You don't mind me doing this, do you? I don't even know what this there's some thing that keeps getting adjusted every time I try messing with something here. And I'm not sure what it is. But I'm just trying to organize my See, with me being here, and I always wear dark clothes. I can see, so that you see under the earth, all that would be dark. And so these guys who are locked, Mystery Science Theater crew, they need to be like brought over like that. Now, finally, adjusting the set. Be very afraid. What was I talking about? Drinking some coffee. We're almost an hour into the show, And
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
yesterday after the show, I walked down to the grocery store and I bought those things that I had on my list, which I read to you. I think I got just about all of them. A little bit of a soreness, but it's more in the gum than the tooth, or the side of the face than the tooth. It's from these teeth that are probably going to have to be yanked because of bad dentistry, sort of thing. Tony Caravan Live worldwide webcast. Be very afraid. Yeah, so people just repeat what they hear, and and that's the nature of it, and that's how revisionist history works. I was reading somewhere else, about how it was something in the news, when I was looking to see reading up news, not watching anything on TV or anything. But I was reading how someone had forget what the context was exactly, what they were talking about. But generally, how humans are so easily conditioned and will conform. That was the whole thing, conformity. And, when I was in high school, that was my big issue, was conformity. I was against conformity. Now think about that. So it's like there's certain things in my life that have stayed with me my entire life. And then there's other parts of my life that have just been total, idiocy. And I've made major blunders and mistakes and miscalculations and stuff like that. We all do that. And you have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive others for having done the same, even if their blunders or idiocy affected you. You have to come to that, and it's a hard thing to do, and I know from personal experience. I've been screwed over, and it's hard to forgive and forget, but you have to. And I've been an idiot, and you got to forgive yourself and hope that the people that may have been affected by your own idiocy or stupidity, miscalculations, whatever the heck you did, that they forgive you too. Because there's really no reason not to. What's to be gained by holding on to hate, holding on, wanting revenge, right? Like even that line, living well is the best revenge, is probably a fairly decent thing, Just move on with your life and live well. That's the best revenge. If you have, but revenge in general, you shouldn't even have that thought of revenge, but we've had it. Many of us, I have to admit, I've been royally screwed over a couple of times. And I've had thoughts of getting revenge, getting even, right? But I've long since let all that stuff go, you know. I'm not even royally pissed off about my roof and all that stuff. You know, I just can't let it bother me. And I hope someone watching this later on, there's nobody watching this now, but I do occasionally get 1 or 2 viewers, sometimes 7 or 8, you know, a dozen. One of my videos got 33 over the past couple of months. 33 viewers. Wow. Don't know how long they watched. I don't really sift through. I don't have time to sift through all this analytics and stuff. You know, people I know occasionally will tell you, well, you got to look through your analytics. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do it this. You got to make this. You got to do clips. Like yesterday, if there's a clip, you know, hey, Tattoo, if you by any chance are watching this, if you find that clip where I was doing, it's a frog, say, and then I get in from like the frog that goes into Jimmy Stewart, like into Edward G. Robinson, like that, there's like this clip. The whole thing probably was only about a minute or so long. You want to cut that clip out and put that up. I think, and you know, and then I have the laugh track in there. I think that's a hilarious bit. It might be a minute and a half. I don't know what it is, but that's like a hilarious thing. But I don't, you know, you're better at that than I am, man. You know, and you could probably just screen capture it, screen record it or something. I mean, with me, I'd have to like download the entire video and put it into, you know, an editing program, and then I don't know. So it's like there's a lot of stuff like that, you know, people tell me I should do. And if I did, this show probably would take off, you know, at least within some niche markets. Because there's always these bits, right? And then there's always some sane conversations that are interesting that, you know, people who watch the first 20 minutes, they go, this guy's a nutbag. And they never get to this point where I'm having a serious conversation. So they never make it to like the zany, insane comedy. And then they never make it to like where I'm actually making sense. But what am I supposed to do? I'm one guy. It's like my book, you know. Well, the book's on top of or the skull's on top of the book. There's a picture of my book. Then what? On the wall there. Over there. Above the woman's head, you know, with the game over like leaking through her. But, you know, there's like a couple of typos in there. On Halloween, I'm going to read my horror story to you from the book. So we can look forward to that. It's not that long, actually. It's only like 6 pages, so it's not even going to take up, it'll only take up a small portion of the show. But there's like, I found a typo in there. I mean, it's a minor thing, but it was like a typo. It was D-O, comma, instead of, it should have been dim, the word dim. And I was blaming it on this show, actually, on an algorithm, until I looked closely at the keyboard and I realized that the O is next to the I and the comma is right to the right of the M. And so it was supposed to be this dim light. Instead, it says D-O, comma, light. Really pisses you off. And I edited it, but I don't have an editor, like an outside editor. And there's 1 or 2 other things like that in there. And there's probably some stuff I have missed, because I haven't really gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. I mean, it's hard to do. You know, it's the same with these shows. And even when I was doing produced shows, they were taking 6 hours to produce them. So they really were like mini documentaries. They were little mini movies. I mean, because they're feature length. I mean, this will run 2 hours. It's a feature length show, right? The only difference is I'm doing it live and I'm trying to, do everything on the fly so that I bring in, that kind of stuff. But
at this point, there is no really authentic way for us to say who or what to look for and guard yourself against.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
But, yeah, it's a show. Or it's a movie, it's a whatever. It's just done. Take it as it is, Here it is. I mean, this thing has really developed, if you think about it, over time. The set, the background, all this stuff, It's kind of funky. I like it. And I like this idea, this lighting. I like it being in the morning before sunrise and all that stuff. In another couple of days, what is it? The 7th is when you set the clocks back, fall behind. So sunrise is like 7:30-ish now. So by... So 8:30 will be 7:30, which is obviously a light. So that means 7:30. Sunrise will be 6:30, around 6:30. Well, it's 5:19 a.m. So I got to make sure my shows end by like 6:30 or something like that, a.m. Eastern. It'll be Eastern Standard Time then, I think. This is daylight savings time, supposedly. Or will that be daylight savings time? I don't know. It's weird. The whole thing's stupid. I mean, messing with time. That's why I was in that weird thing yesterday, I believe it was, where I was talking about you don't even know maybe 2 days ago, or does anybody really know what time it is? Or what year it is? Is it really the year 2021? And people think that's like, you're crazy. We have proof. What proof do you have? You have no proof. I thought that was a worthwhile discussion to have, actually. It's this idea of we take everything on face value. You assume because someone has a degree or the word professor in front of their name, they know what they're talking about. Like I said, there were years ago when the first time I ever went to a doctor, when I was having like abdominal pains and stuff like that, which probably turned out because I ended up having operations, later on. But this was some guy, I'm not going to say from what country he came from, couldn't speak English that well, and he was like being abusive to me in a sense, like he wasn't believing me, and I was saying, yeah, but I got this. And I realized, I started to say, who knows, do they have these, fake universities over there, or do they know somebody at a university, or if you're you have a family that has some money, can you pay to get your name on a roster and come over with a diploma and say you're a doctor? And on a long flight over, you read some medical books, or you familiarize yourself with a little bit of jargon, and you come over here and you make good money as a doctor. You intern at a hospital. Most doctors will tell you that, it's during their intern period is when they learn to be a doctor. That's true. It's a generalization, but it also elevates the nurse, the RN. And it's a problem we have in this country because I've heard from more than one doctor that when they went in to intern, they looked to like the 20-year veteran RNs, in the emergency room and stuff like that, that would kind of lead the way. They were the ones. So in effect, that's who was training, because like the interns always get the weird graveyard shifts and stuff like that. Veteran doctors aren't working, doing the 3 a.m., OR stuff. And so it's these RNs, who've been working in the OR for, the ER, I should say, for years, have seen everything. And they're the ones, But they've been the ones that have been like leaving in droves right now in this country. And so we have, like I said, recently I had gone to an ER and it was like Kitty City. The doctor intern came in. I was around the changing of the guards, so to speak. So there was like this older doctor, but he was leaving, and this younger guy came in, was clearly an intern. And he still had, he was so green that he had a backpack. Like college, you wear a backpack. He actually came in with like a backpack on. The guy was clearly in his 20s, right? And the nurses who were like attending to me were like girls in their 20s, in their early 20s. There wasn't any there wasn't even like a 35-year-old, let alone, some 45, 50-year-old, 20-year, some experienced RN or something. They were all just like kids, college kids, And there were things in tests and stuff that, that the previous doctor had called on, and this nurse, this girl, I would call her because I don't think I wouldn't qualify her as a nurse. She goes, well, you don't have to have that if you don't want to, or do you want that? Or what? I'm going, you're the professionals here. You're the medical professionals. You tell me. No, I don't want a CT scan on my head. I don't want that radiation in that gelatinous mold in my brain, right? Develop a brain tumor down the road or something. You tell me, is this necessary? She's like, it's like you might as well have been, Dr. Mo, Dr. Larry, Dr.
Hello.
Dr. Mo, Dr. Larry, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine. I mean, it was ridiculous. And then, so I go to a follow-up appointment to go to my family doctor, who wasn't around. He's on vacation all the time. I think he's retiring. And his wife, who's she's the best doctor in the world. I wish she was my personal physician. She knows everything. She's just always up on everything. You ask her a question and she knows the answer. And I went to her because this was this dizzy problem I was having. I talked about this once before, but it's worth talking about again since I'm bringing this topic up. And she said, and I can't remember exactly what she said because I'm not a medical professional. She said, oh, yeah. She goes, that's like a kind of a semi-rare problem. But oddly enough, I've had a number of those cases, people present with that this summer. Which a guy like me lit up a light going, well, that's interesting. So it's an unusual thing. It's rare, but you've had a number of people present with that. She said what it's caused by is some kind of there's like a bone behind your ear, and there's some kind of crystals back there, and they get displaced or something like that. And it's not, that other thing, that other dizzy thing, whatever it's called. It's like a Mel Brooks movie. My mind's gone. See, they melted my brain. But she said, you seem to be recovering from it. She goes, there is like therapy they put people through where they make them put their head sideways for X amount of time and do this and do that. She goes, but you seem to be recovering. And I did. I have recovered from it, But she knew. Now, if the doctor or an RN at this hospital that I went to would have known that, they would have never called for a CT scan of my brain, giving me this mega dose of radiation, and I'm a cancer patient who had a radical prostatectomy, right? I had cancer. I should not be exposed. Radiation in me should not be, I should be staying away from that crap. But she knew right away, this doctor here. But she wasn't available in the middle of the night when I had to call an ambulance because I couldn't stand up. I was crawling down the stairs from my second floor. I didn't know what was going on. It was weird. But like she said, it's rare. It's not, I know what I can't think of the freaking word. There's a common thing that people get, the fear of heights or something like that. What's that freaking called? I got to look it up because I hate this. It's a problem with doing these morning shows. You're half awake, you're just drinking, fear of heights. Not fear of heights, but dizziness from heights, vertigo. Yeah. It wasn't vertigo. Okay. That's not what it wasn't vertigo. I just couldn't think of it. I was thinking Mel Brooks had that movie, But no, it wasn't vertigo. It was some kind of like bone, crystal, weird, rare. But oddly enough, she happened to see a couple of cases of it this summer, which I thought, was weird. But the experience of it was beyond it wasn't vertigo. Like I wasn't like I was looking down the stairs and room was spinning. It wasn't a spinning dizziness. It was like an inability for me to be able to stand up, at all, and navigate. It was like, it was the strangest frickin' thing you could imagine, and with it came like nausea and other stuff. And it was weird. But she said, yeah, she goes, it's an uncommon thing. She goes, but it's not life-threatening, and it's caused by this, and the people who get it, there's like almost a, they go through like kind of a physical therapy to get it back, get their these bones or crystals or whatever the heck it was back aligned or something like that. And lucky enough, I was fine. But these kids, this is what I'm talking about. So these RNs are quitting in droves around the country. And nobody knows what's going on. So, you've got to worry about medical care. And then you've got you got government like taking charge of this as if they're, medical professionals or something. But they're not. They're the government. They're bureaucrats. They're elected officials, And some of these, even these organizations that people are on the tip of people's tongues, like these things aren't even like wholly government operations. Many of them are privately funded, but also the government does help fund them. Or like has involvement with. It's kind of like the Fed, the Federal Reserve. Like a lot of people think that's the government, right? And they look at the dollar bill, it says Federal Reserve note and all that stuff. It's like the president appoints the Federal Reserve chairman, out of courtesy of the Federal Reserve, right? Because they're they're part of that corporatocracy. But the Federal Reserve is a private consortium of central banks, of U.S. central banks. That's what the Federal Reserve System is. And every time you use like your ATM card and stuff like that, that all goes through the Federal Reserve System. And the Federal Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve itself, is like does the overnight loans money to banks. They buy treasuries and they prop up the U.S. economy, basically. And you got a former Fed chairman who's now the Treasury Secretary of the United States. That's that so-called revolving door thing. And so that's what this game over thing, well, here, it's over there. That's why I mean about game over, and you don't know what you don't know. And in effect, everything you know is wrong. And be very afraid. Because, the lunatics are running the asylum. The people in charge are just, they're inept. And the ones who aren't inept are lying. And the ones who, know better are walking on eggshells because they've got houses in Virginia and Maryland and they, kids in school and, cars and a lifestyle, and they don't want to lose their job. So they're like, zip it up, keep their mouth shut and just, follow, go with the thing. Right? And then there's brave people. It's like with teachers and firemen and cops and nurses and stuff. There's some that say, that are, like I've always been that way. That said, screw this. I'm not going. I'm not going with this. I quit. I can't be a party to this insanity. And that should make you very afraid, and wonder, why would these medical professionals see? It's not a question. You have to realize there are certain things that should open your eyes. Right? In other words, set off little alarms. The coffee's colder than, it's colder than room temperature right now, defying all logic. Physics. So it's not like as if people think, well, I guess if they saw everybody quit, walk off the job, then people go like, yeah, there is something fishy going on. But I understand, no. If 20 nurses, experienced nurses quit a hospital, a job ahead of the pension or something like that, that should set off an alarm. That's the canary in the coal mine. That's enough to say, be very afraid. All right? Because they're the brave ones. They're the ones that are putting it all on the line and are saying, there's something going on here that's so messed up, right, that I can't be a party to it. Forget about the ones who are staying, right? And, in some respects, okay, you can't blame some people. What are they going to do? They might have a sick mother they're taking care of, or like I told you, they've got kids in school and stuff. They're not, a lot of people don't have the flex, they got a big mortgage and stuff. So you're not going to see every cop walk off the job. You're not going to see every nurse, every doctor, every whatever walk off the job and say, hey, government worker, bureaucrat. But we're seeing enough of it, man. We're seeing enough of it to point out that there's something sick going on there. Because we're seeing the ones that are figuring it going like, that have this, have this certain moral, ethical, fiber within them that say no matter what, or who don't have some kind of attachment, who, aren't desperate enough for that salary and are confident enough that they could do something else, that they're walking away. And that should make you very afraid. And that's why I question things. And then when I hear these things like, you can mix and match, I'm going, what? What? And I'm like the only guy in America that's like this even like is dawned on. And there's 2 stories about that, not just one. One was a couple of weeks ago. They said people entering the country could have mixed things in, And I'm going, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. How could you? These are all different. This is chemistry. This is like, genetics. This is high-end, weird RNA, protein building, patented, whatever. What do you mean mix and match? And then they came out, and now they're saying you could just mix and match it. You could have any booster, any brand of booster. Well, how does it? It's like that's like an admission that it's a saline solution. There's no other thing. That's Occam's razor, man. It's plain and simple. It's Occam's razor. You cannot, right? You don't put somebody on, Valium and then say, well, when you run out of Valium, take a lithium or take a, whatever, clonazem, whatever it is, Clonopin or something. You know what I mean? It's not that. That's not how it works. Doctors prescribe a drug, prescribe a thing. There's a reason, it's based on you. Something is patented. Something performs a certain thing. Things are tested, for side effects and this, that, the other. Some fish. I was saying, be afraid, be very afraid. And then the frickin' economy, man. This like chair. I'm not angry about that either.
He was such a nice boy.
You should have handled him more carefully.
Who?
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers?
Yeah, he was the guy that was after you.
In the Myers house? That little kid who killed his sister?
Yeah.
But he's in a hospital somewhere.
He escaped last night.
How do you know?
It's all over the radio. Television, too. It's on right now.
Why me?
Why me? It's a horror story. That's what's going on right now in this country and in former Western civilization. It's a freaking horror story. I mean, it's plain and simple. I mean, everything points to like the most unbelievable, unacceptable, unfathomable, things that people are just accepting as like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then people are passing this stuff around, parroting things they see on TV and stuff. It's crazy. It's absolute crazy. It's sickness. Whoever just joined this show, you really missed some good stuff in the last half hour. But yeah. So there is no hope, and so the only thing you can do is take care of yourself. And you got to really detach yourself from this corporatocracy. Yeah. Freedom is fun, that's it. If you want to have an enjoyable life, yeah, freedom is fun. Because what's going down is beyond belief. Beyond belief. It's just like, it's, like I was saying before in other shows, the words surreal, absurd, insane, they have become like meaningless words because as descriptives, because what's happening is so far, beyond, those definitions. I mean, literally, the lunatics are running the asylum. I mean, it is, and it's gone on, and it's become so entrenched in this bureaucracy of millions and millions of people. See, that's another thing that people don't understand. That the bureaucracy, the so-called, some people call it the swamp. It's not the swamp. It's just what it is. It's the bureaucracy. Its government has grown to this gigantic, ginormous, millions and millions of people. And like I said, most of those people, they're not going to stand up for what they think is right. If that means losing their house, their spouse, their, children not being able to go to school, losing their car. You see what I mean? When you have like a 6-figure job or a high 5-figure job, you don't just walk, you don't say, oh, this is wrong. I can't be party of this. This is what you're doing it's immoral. It's unethical. It's, you're lying to people. You want to say that. And I bet you there's a lot of people who want to say that, but then they weigh it out and they look at it and they sit at the kitchen table with their, significant other and say, you can't do it. You got to just stay, just go to work, keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, right? The old expression, keep your head down, do your work, come home, because the same way as they used to talk about, and you've heard this 1,000 times, that, people who had, so-called blue-collar jobs, or even people who worked in fast food and stuff, that they were one paycheck away from homelessness. Okay? You've heard that 1,000 times. For years, too. That's nothing new. Well, somebody making 6 figures is also just a couple of paychecks away from homelessness. See, the scale doesn't matter, right? If you've got a mortgage, if you have a rent, that's $600 a month, $800 a month, or something weird like that, or if you're lucky enough to have a $500 a month or somebody staying with roommates and you lose your job, yeah, you can't pay the rent. But if you have a mortgage and it's $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month, right? Like in a major market or something like that, and you lose your income, well, that's $5,000 mortgage you can't pay. You see what I mean? So you're no different than the guy working at McDonald's. It's just a matter of scale. It's like the macro, micro way of looking at life. That's why they call it macroeconomics, microeconomics, and things like that. So it doesn't really matter. So a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that are, that think things are really messed up right now, but they're just keeping their head down. The so-called proverbial nose to the grindstone. Do your job, collect your paycheck, and don't talk about it. And when you go to a dinner party or a cocktail party, watch what you say. Don't criticize the status quo, the people in power, the lunatics running the asylum, the corporatocracy, the technocracy, right? Even though the people running the lunatics are not the majority of people in this country. But the point is, it doesn't matter. They've structured this has been something that's been building and building and building. And so the infrastructure, and I'm not talking bridges and highways, roads, or railways. I'm talking the infrastructure of how the economy works, how, the government functions, how the banking system, the financial system, right? How everything works, legislation, right? The court systems. The bureaucracy is an unbelievable, it's like it has so many tentacles, that just are stretched and are everywhere you could imagine. And they go from, not just from the major markets or from the center of power like Washington, D.C., but right down to like tiny boroughs or, little communities that aren't even incorporated, cities, townships. That's how entrenched this system is, and the tentacles are everywhere, and it's all interconnected, and they're all it's intertwined and interdependent. And that's why this whole concept of like Save America or Build Back Better or the Great Reset, all three are exactly the same thing, and all three are meaningless. You're not going to like reset something that's that entrenched. You're not going to save something that's that entrenched, and you're not going to build it back. I mean, what are you building back? Right? It's like America the Beautiful. I was like I said, I was talking to my 88-year-old mother. And I go, this is a beautiful country. Physically, right? You can't change that, Sunrise comes up in another hour and a half, and it'll probably be some beautiful sunrises along the East Coast. And there's probably some people camping in places or hiking and doing different things right now, other places, overlooking rolling hills, valleys, and going to watch fog lift as the morning comes in and breathing fresh air. And maybe there's even people who've been up all night, like I used to when I lived in New York City, that are, up on the rooftop and looking out at the cityscape, the lights of the city. And the architecture, of all these buildings and, stuff. Whether it's a cityscape or a landscape, whatever it is, yeah, it's a beautiful country. Right? But the country, that's the geography. All right? But there's people, make up a country. And This country's messed up, man. And so you can't change that type of system. It's game over. You know, and just like the Roman Empire, you know, became Italy, basically. You know, that's another thing a lot of people just don't get. It's like, nothing disappear. You know, United States, when I say the former United States, like some people have, like, that guy's off his rocker. It's like, no. It's like saying the former, you know, Soviet Union is now Russia. Okay? You know, the former Roman Empire, you know, is basically, you know, mostly Italy, you know, apart from all the other expansionism they had, where they lost all that control of all those other territories. Same with the dynastic period in Egypt, or any empire over the years, the Spanish conquistadors and all that kind of nonsense. We talk about this stuff all the time here. No, Western civilization has fallen. This is not what, you know, this is it, you know? And, you know, this is the former United States. You're not going to save it. You say? You're not going to build back better. I mean, if anything, this Build Back Better crew is like dismantling. And the concept of a great reset is even more absurd. You know, to think that you could take a planet of 8 billion people, 190 some odd countries, right? More than half of which are not democracies, by the way. Okay? So like thinking you even have any control over half of that, right? Half the world living in poverty and whatnot, you know, having scarcity, availability of water and food, and what we would call, you know, we take for granted, services we take for granted. And they're going to like great reset that. I mean, the absurdity of this is as absurd as what I showed earlier on this show, is this idea that people have no clue that our atmosphere is basically composed of nitrogen. It's like the primary, over 2/3 of our atmosphere is nitrogen. There are people that think, that CO2 is considered a trace element. There's more argon in our atmosphere than CO2. Argon. Okay? When you take a breath, when you breathe in, you're breathing in like 70-some% nitrogen. You're pulling in about 20-some% oxygen, which you need, and you're pulling in argon and then a bunch of trace elements. Right? Yeah. Think about that. It's a nitrogen planet. There's more argon than CO2. And yet the planet is green with 0.004 CO2. And they're trying to sell people this weird bill of goods about that. And that's another one of those things that just people parrot and keep repeating. I saw something yesterday. Every day I see it because I watch it on YouTube. I don't watch TV. I told you that 1,000 times. I cut the cord. But I saw something again on the sun, the source of light, life, vitamin D, okay, photosynthesis. But I saw something yesterday, like some panic, fear-mongering thing about how, this climate crisis was like as if it was the worst thing, and was the end of the world, fear-mongering story, right? And meanwhile, all these volcanoes are going off, spewing up ash and carbon, sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. Like real toxins, and real soot and stuff. There's like dozens of volcanoes going off now. That La Palma thing is sick, man. If you watch that. There's like live cameras on that on YouTube. Watch it for 5 minutes, especially at nighttime when you can really see this jets of like flames coming up from multiple areas. This has been going on for over a month now. And what you can't see at nighttime, you see in the daytime, this black soot smoke going up. And there's these volcanoes all over the world going off right now. And that's basically going to cool the planet. And the Atlantic conveyor is slowed down. That's the thing, the reason that the northern latitudes, like England, Northern Europe, the northern part of the U.S., Canada, that we have like climates that allow us where we could live in, right? That aren't like Arctic. And that's the reason why we're seeing this it get colder. And there are peer-reviewed papers being written about this, but the press, they don't read that stuff. They don't have people that look at that because they're all brainwashed with this UN IPCC lies that they've admitted they lied. But this planet is cooling, and we're on the verge of we could be on the verge of a snap freeze, just like we had with those woolly mammoths that were found with undigested food in their stomachs. And this conveyor slowing down, and there is enough fresh water right now up there next to Greenland, all right, that all that has to happen, it could happen in one day, is that, just a shifting, to let this water flow down. And that'll shut off that conveyor. And that's it, man. All right? That's northern latitudes, too cold, for a while, but too cold to live. And the idea of trying to get rid of a carbon, because we're a carbon-based life form, but we're a carbon-based planet, that only carbon fuels would have, the BTUs, so to speak, or whatever, would be able to heat and maintain life in the northern latitudes. There's nothing else. And that's just one little side thing that just nobody's paying attention to at all. But, the people who study this stuff are. And it's happened before, and it'll happen again. And we seem to be on the cusp of it, of it's ready to happen. And meanwhile, all this carbon's going up, and these guys and these loons are talking about putting carbon-sucking fans. This was actually in the news. We read it here. Take the little trace elements of CO2 out of the atmosphere. I mean, what are we going to do? That would be the end of trees and plants and crops. No wonder they're trying to do this stupid stuff. Well, not that one, this one. Make, everything fake. Grow coffee in a Petri dish. Right? Make fake meat. Make this. These guys know this stuff. That's the really weird thing. Like they built that seed bank up in Svalbard, right? A decade or two ago. See, the Davos set knows what's going on. They know they're lying. The billionaires know, they know what's going on. This is just their way of, bringing back, the feudal system. They don't care about this. They're taken care of. They've got their, they've got their escape planned. Their survival. The only thing they can't survive, and they're a little bit oblivious to, pretty much a lot oblivious to, is the power of the sun. And that if the sun indeed does have what we believe, many of us, this micronova, basically nova event, and it even just a strong CME that would take out, technology, take out the satellites and the grid. But there's this one that's basically a near extinction event possibility that seems to occur every 12,000 years. Some say even 6. But yeah, those guys, they're screwed too with that, because, they've tried, they have these underground places that they've built, right? And these people have all like bought property in like New Zealand and different places, right? You know about these things. This is reported on. They don't keep this secret. Like I say, if you got to follow the money if you want to know what's really going on. So every now and then, check out a Bloomberg News or CNBC or even Fox Business, one of the business channels, and see where the money's going, what people are doing, and stuff like that. And then you get an idea. Yeah, not ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, or any of that stuff. CNN, forget that. I mean, those are just clown shows. That's theatrics to sell cars and pharmaceuticals. They're all sponsored by Pfizer. You know what I mean? And GM and stuff like that. That's showbiz. But you've got to watch what the billionaires are talking about, what they're doing. So some of them are aware of different things here and there, but they have no idea that the power of the sun. Like, people just can't grasp that the earth is a dot compared to the sun and how dependent we are on the sun. Like that's like this whole, the reason that is because of how people bought hook, line, and sinker into this ridiculous CO2 nonsense and climate crisis. 0.004 CO2. And the idea that they every summer they're out in the sun and they get a sunburn, and that they know, and doctors and everything are always telling you vitamin D, comes from the sun. That's your best source of it. And you need it for your immune system and to properly function. And if a kid doesn't get enough vitamin D, they get rickets. And if an older person doesn't get enough vitamin D, they get like osteoporosis or this osteo with an M thing, whatever. Bone problems. Okay. So we know that's not contested. That's not argued. And like right now, the sun's not out and it's as cold, and it gets really cold, and the coldest before sunrise, unless there's some kind of weird front coming in, the wind, some wind event type of thing where there's a storm blowing, southern wind in, or what they call a polar vortex type of thing. Apart from that, generally speaking, when the sun's out, it's hot. When the sun's gone, it's cold. Right? And the sun is the source of photosynthesis for plants, and it's photosynthesis for us. Just a different form of photosynthesis. It activates over 1,000 different things in our bodies, right? And it protects us. And that was like the whole absurdity last year where they were telling people to stay inside. The best thing to build your immune system would have been to advise people to go outside. Now, they could have said, well, they could have done their distancing thing or whatever they want, but they still should have said, try to get out and try to get 10 to 20, depending on your age, 10 to 20 minutes of sun 3 times a week. I mean, that was the one consensus I've gotten from watching well over a dozen different doctors talk about this thing. That 3 times a week, depending on your skin color, the lighter your skin, the less time you need to spend in the sun. But you can only get the UVB rays during, like from April to October, early October. So like we're entering into time now where you can't get. And like I said, that's my biggest frustration is I've yet to hear any concrete, solid, nutritional guidance on supplements. There's just contradictions. I mean, you could go out there and you'll find 3 or 4 places say, oh yeah, we'll take these supplements in the wintertime. Yeah. But go to a dozen different places and then your brain will be like put through a blender. I've done it. I literally spent hours watching seminars, medical seminars, doctors like Johns Hopkins type guys, right? Giving seminars to medical professionals and talk on the topic of vitamin D and stuff like that. Nutritionists. And it all contradictory. Nothing about supplements. Everything was back to the sun, the sun, the sun. Yeah, you can get it from like oily fish. Like yesterday, I went down the store and I bought a can of sardines. And I made myself a sardine. I ate a can of sardines wrap. Because supposedly that's a source of vitamin D. But unfortunately, things like sardines and even salmon and stuff now, I mean, there's so much mercury and stuff that they even advise you not to eat, oily fish, like even tuna and stuff, more than a couple times a month or so because of the toxins. And then you still have Fukushima, like, all that Pacific salmon and stuff. Radiation. It's irradiated. And there's people that try to debunk that, but it's not true. It's like, that's about as debunkable as this, which I haven't done in several shows, right? The electromagnetic radiation tester. I have to check it all the time. Okay. Let's put it on and point it at the computer. My battery died. I left it on. My battery died. Son of a bitch. Yeah. Well, I've got to put a new battery in it. I have one. I'll keep that out. But anyway, the idea that there's electromagnetic radiation coming off of these monitors and these computers. And I have them. That's a lab, tool. And when the guy came to hook up my new, this was a year or so ago, my electric meter, right? Because that's all like tied into this kind of stuff. He was wearing like a hazmat. It looked like out of a movie. He had a full body suit on, radiation suit, like as if he was going into, Chernobyl. That's what he had on while he was changing the thing. But why would they do that? Right? Ask people about that. Yeah. It was like, what are you wearing that like full body radiation suit for? And I have a chair, it's my porch because my electric meter is like, it's just to the side of my porch. And I have a chair there, which usually my favorite place to sit because like the sun at a certain angle sometimes comes down and it was a nice place to put my feet up on the rail, and just soak up some sun, especially this time of year. If you get a day when it's not freezing, if it jumps up into like 60, you go out there and just get some sun, just sit out. It's like, I'm not sitting next to that thing. This guy had a radiation suit on. Right? So there's so many reasons to be afraid. But there's so many reasons not to be afraid is to detach yourself from this. And so I guess that's the message of this show. This has gone on, long enough. So good morning. Anyway, buy some of my gear, get my book, get the print version, go to Great Solar Stuff. You're going to need that stuff. There's strange things are coming down the pike. You're going to need portable power. Visit my website and get Freedom is Fun shirt and all that, happy horse shit. And I guess I'll be here